Well, it's time to save the guitar. For real this time. Not so that you can save music, but so that you can save your humanity. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh coming to you from Singapore. I would like to begin this not by talking about AI or artificial artists or whatever, but I want to read a poem. And bear with me, it's not my own poem, but bear with me, it has some bearing on this entire topic. In almost every house we've been, we watch them gaping at the screen. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. Now, a different part of the poem. They sit and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it, until they are absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. Now, obviously, this is someone talking about the smartphone, except it is not. It is someone, rather a famous person called Mr. Roald Dahl, famous from, say, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka, all of that. It's him writing about the television set all the way back. I think this predates 1964. This is about even before he wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The point that he was trying to make is that as you have technology that makes stuff very accessible to the human being, because think about books versus television, because television is what Roald Dahl is talking about. Books, you have to employ your imagination, right? If you read Harry Potter or Roald Dahl for that matter, the scenes that are described by him or by J.K. Rowling, you need to imagine them in your head. Which is why, for me, for example, the Harry Potter movies never got close to the books. But the television or the movie, they bring everything to life, so your brain has to do less work. So basically, Mr. Roald Dahl was talking about how television was making people's brains lazy. Well, imagine if he could see what things are now. And by that same logic, what we see is that the smartphone is making people's brains even lazier. And now, at least even in the era of the smartphone, still you had to do stuff yourself. You had to think of writing something yourself. If you wanted to make music, you had to make it yourself. Make art, you had to actually draw the damn thing. But of course, now with large language models, guess what? All it requires is very fundamental basic prompting. And you can have a song, you can have Bonnie Tyler in the style of Taylor Swift for all I care. And it probably exists somewhere on the internet if AI covers are by any, the kind of AI covers you see these days, you have one of everything. It's like that rule of the internet. So the brain becomes even lazier, right? Suddenly, to make a song, you no longer need to, uh, you know, learn to play an instrument. You can just type a few letters, just like artists can do right now. Having worked in marketing previously, what I can tell you is that we used to have, not in my company, but agencies that we used to employ have graphic designers, have a lot of people employed to do work that today you can just do by just putting 5 letters in a prompt. So, what is the point of all of this? The speed at which technology and particularly large language models and AI is moving at is that it is going to make things easier and easier for the average human being till the point that they practically don't need to employ their brain at all. And while this may sound amazing and utopian that wow, what a wonderful world of abundance where you don't need to do anything, reality is that the human brain needs to do some work. The reality is humanity comes from the art of thinking, the art of stretching your brain, stretching your imagination. That is what makes you human. That is where original thought comes from. And that is sadly going away. And guess what? There's very little that you can do about it. If companies have a simple, easier way to do something, they will ask a AI model to do it rather than a human being. It just makes sense. AI model is cheaper. So you can sit and complain about it, but there's nothing you can do about it, except that you can. Because the thing is, the art of playing an instrument, which has been made entirely redundant, I would argue, with all of that AI can do these days. If you don't believe me, just look up all the different channels on AI generated songs on the internet. Maybe a year ago, you could say that their tones weren't that great, but today you can get beautiful guitar solo tones, the kind of tones that we guitarists have been talking about for years. You can get them perfectly generated on all of these AI songs. Just find a power metal cover or anything. So the use of the instrument as a tool to make music is coming to an end. I have spoken about this. But the use of an instrument as a tool to keep your humanity, to keep your imagination, to keep your general sense of perseverance and stretching your brain to do things it is not used to doing, that remains very much alive. And this is why I say this is the time to save guitar. because I can think of few other things that stretch the brain and are actually quite difficult, especially in the beginning. Of course, later, not that it gets easier, but it's no longer as challenging. I can think of few other things that stretch the human brain and are pretty much accessible to anyone these days than playing an instrument, or very particularly playing a guitar. The guitar is the kind of thing where you don't need a large instrument, you don't need an expensive instrument. You can get a cheap guitar for like $100 or whatever it costs anywhere. It's like football in a way, or soccer, depending on where you come from. I come from the place where you say soccer, right? To play soccer, all you need is a ball. To play guitar, all you need is $100. Well, this is not $100 instrument. This is a $3,000 Martin. But my point is, the guitars are so widespread all over the world. They are pretty much available to almost anyone, even in the most far off places. One of the experiences I recall is going to a place called Mount Toba. This Mount Toba is a volcanic lake in Indonesia. Most people haven't heard of it because luckily tourists haven't overrun it, and it's really, you have to fly to a town in Indonesia, and then you have to take either a bus ride or a very long journey to go up the mountain. It's a bit like Hallstatt in Austria, where you have a lake high up in the mountains, similar concept. And the journey from the Indonesian city all the way up to Lake Toba was in a local bus, Indonesian bus, with a one-legged guitarist and a goat, and he was just playing songs which I'd never heard of the whole journey. That's the spread of the guitar. That, for me, when I think of the magic of the guitar, and it was just some cheap acoustic, I didn't even recognize the brand. That is the magic. You don't need a $3,000 guitar. You just need a guitar with some strings on it, and you can make music. And it's intensely human. It is intensely human to just play an instrument. It's intensely human to play it, and it's intensely human to learn it. And at a time when suddenly you don't need to write anymore because ChatGPT will make up your paragraphs, you don't need to paint anymore because ChatGPT will create any painting you want. You don't even need to maybe shoot movies anymore because you can generate all the great cinematic scenes with Pika or whatever you may be using. The point is, you still need something to keep your brain alive. You still need something to keep yourself human. And that is why I say we have to constantly encourage as much or as many people to play an instrument, and maybe the guitar because that's so accessible. We need to encourage this as much as possible. Because what will happen is that today, of course, all guitarists criticize each other. You're like, this person didn't play that solo properly, that note was not bent properly, oh, that person sucks at guitar. I think that attitude was poor to begin with, but it's positively fatal now, because at this point in time, anybody playing guitar needs all the encouragement that they can get rather. And if you play guitar or you're at all involved in the guitar space, I think you have perhaps two responsibilities, if not to yourself, but in general to humanity. As much as one individual cannot make too much of a difference, there are small things everybody can do. And the two things really are is, if you are playing guitar even a little bit, keep playing it, don't give it up. Find the time, just pick it up for 5 minutes in a day if that's all you get. And don't tell me you don't have 5 minutes to play guitar. You have 5 minutes to scroll the internet and look at junk, as a Roald Dahl would say, literally on TikTok. You have 5 minutes to pick up the guitar. Keep an acoustic guitar around the house. Even if you don't have time to tune it up, just strum the damn thing. Play something. That's responsibility number one. Responsibility number two, if anybody in your circle is playing guitar or looking to get into it or trying to improve, encourage the hell out of it. Because what happens is then you have this kind of a knock-on effect of multiple people doing these small things, and then the habit of playing instrument remains. And then through the habit of playing an instrument, learning an instrument, remaining pervading beyond the people who just remember people remember right now, people alive who remember the 60s and 70s, the rock and roll era, or my generation who remember, say, the new metal era or whatever you want to call the 90s and 2000s. But guitar has disappeared from mainstream music a fair amount, or at least it's no longer at the forefront, even if it's a background instrument. So you will soon get people who do not have that hook of a particular period in their lives to encourage them to play guitar. That's where guitar needs to kind of continue through almost like a grassroots movement, so to speak, because you no longer have the rock stars to inspire people, or maybe the rock stars turned into a myth that inspired people as well, who I don't know. But spreading it at a grassroots level cannot hurt. All right, folks, I hope this was helpful, and I'll say it again. The time to save guitar is now. Let's do it.